Hey, what's up guys? How we doing? Today we're going to talk a little bit about pitching mechanics. I want to talk a little bit about handbrake, about your arm action, about weight shift and transfer. We just kind of put it all together, talk just for a few minutes about overall pitching mechanics. So if you break down pitching basically into its simplest form, it's really all about using your body to get your arm involved late so that you're going to take a lot of the stress off your arm, but more importantly, you're going to use your entire body to build up some force, and this is going to allow your arm to deliver the ball at a really high rate of speed. I think too many young pitchers, well, I actually don't think, I know, I see a lot of young pitchers throwing, and too many of them think that pitching and velocity comes only from your arm, and they don't use their body in the most efficient or effective way that they can. They rely much too heavily on just their arm to supply all the power, all the velocity. And these guys end up throwing slower, but they're also putting too much stress on their arm because they're not using their body in the most efficient way. They're relying just on the arm. And there's much too stress there, and we're not going to throw as hard if we rely on only our arm to create all this energy and deliver a ball at a high rate of speed. It's just not going to happen. It's really similar to what I see a lot of young hitters doing. Young hitters want to use only their upper body or just their hands to create all this bat speed instead of using their entire body and more importantly using their bottom half to create this power and force that allows the bat to be the last thing that comes through the zone and really whips through the hitting zone. If you watch major league hitters, that's what you're going to see. You're not going to see the hands and the upper body getting out front of the lower body, but the lower body is going to be what works, and the hands and the bat are going to be somewhat delayed, and they're going to be the last thing to come through the zone, more like a whipping action. And that's exactly what we're looking for when we're looking at pitching mechanics. So the big question is, how do we do this as a pitcher? Well, the big thing is you need to allow your body, you got to give it time, and you need to allow it to build up that energy. And one way you do that is by having a later handbrake. So we're going to talk a little bit today about handbrake. By having a later handbrake, you're going to get the arm involved later in the throwing process. So you want to make sure, the big thing is you want to make sure that you've started your weight shift. So as you lift your leg, you want to make sure that you've started your weight shift towards home plate before you break your hands. And this is going to get your arm involved later in the throwing process. It's going to give your body some time to work and build up some energy. And your arm's going to act more like a whip and less like you're pushing the ball to home plate. Because when our arms get up too early and we haven't really had any weight transfer, our arm wants to throw the ball. It's getting ahead of the process. And now we're going to push the ball to home plate. We're not going to whip the ball to home plate. We're not letting our body do anything. Our arm and our upper body is getting out in front of our lower half too much, and we're not going to have as much velocity. We're going to add more stress to our arm, and that's not what we're looking to do. Okay, so let's look real quick at Daniel Robertson, relief pitcher from the New York Yankees. He's been really successful, had a successful career so far, still very young, throws pretty hard, very good pitching mechanics. So let's look a little bit at him. Look at when he breaks his hands, when he starts to transfer his weight, when he has his weight shift going, and compared to what I see in a lot of younger players. So if we watch him as he lifts his leg here and gets to the top of his leg lift, right from this point he starts to shift his weight. As you can see, he's going to start to shift. Now he's moving towards home plate, and his hands just break. So right here, his hands are still together. If you look at a younger player at this point, their hands are already going to be broken, and the arm is actually going to, it wants to get up and start to throw the ball too early in the process. Anytime you watch a major league player or a guy that throws very hard, this is what you're going to see, something more along these lines, where the hands still haven't broken, and weight transfer, weight shift has already began. The player's already starting to move towards home plate. The hands are still together and not broken yet. If we run it forward a little bit longer, now the hands break. Robertson's still moving his body towards home plate, but the arm is not getting up to throw yet. The arm is still down. He's continuing to move forward towards the plate. Now he gets that back leg extended, and now the arm is just coming up so that when he lands, at this point, his arm is back and cocked. Now, if you look at a younger player in this position, their arm is already going to be basically throwing the ball to home plate. They already want to throw the ball. Whereas you look at major league players, when their front foot lands, their arms are back and cocked. Now his upper body acts like a slingshot. And this is why the ball is delivered at such a high rate of speed towards home plate. He's allowed his bottom half to work. He's allowed it to build up energy. His arm is basically just along for the ride. He doesn't rely on his arm to be the thing that creates all this power and force to throw the ball at a high rate of speed to home plate. But he's relying on his body to build this up. And he's allowing his arm to just be along for the ride, just to be the thing that is that final thing that comes through like a whip and delivers the ball at such a high rate of speed. It's the body that's building up all the force and energy to allow the arm to be that last thing to come through and really whip through the zone. And like I said earlier, it's the same exact thing as hitting. Pitching mechanics and hitting mechanics, although they're slightly different, they're both relying on the same thing. They're relying on the body to be the thing that really builds up that energy. And then the arm or the bat is going to be the last thing that kind of comes through that zone and delivers the blow. So let's watch this one more time from start to finish. So, although there's a lot more finer points to pitching and there's a lot more involved in pitching mechanics, I think this is a good place to start and obviously a good thing to talk about for a lot of people to kind of understand what we're trying to do as a pitcher. So really focus on when you're shifting your weight and when you're breaking your hands. Make sure that you're starting to shift your weight towards home plate before you break your hands. That's basically a general rule that'll really help you out. Make sure you're videotaping yourself so that you can see these things. It's very tough to feel as a pitcher when you're breaking your hands and shifting your weight. But if you have someone videotape you, you don't have to think about it. You can go back and watch it, and then you can make an adjustment, tape again, and that's how you can really get your mechanics down. So we'll keep breaking down a bunch of different things. This was just one basic thing that I wanted to talk about a little bit, just because I was speaking a few days ago about this type of thing, and I figured I'd make a video on it. So I hope it helps you out. If you have any questions, let me know, and we'll talk to you later.